are no such thing as Macra! Macra do not exist! Do not believe the strangers or me, Doc! There are no Macra! Macra do not exist! Yeah, but if you're going to say it like that, then I'm not exactly going to believe you. Maybe if you were calm, maybe you suggested like with that sleeping gas voice, maybe if you did that, then maybe it'd make more sense. But you're you're almost sounding a bit frightened. So I can't exactly believe you because you sound so because you're so shouty. It's making me think the complete opposite, and you sound very scared as well. Let me just mention that. No! No! There are no such thing as Macra! You must obey! There are no such things as Macra! Sorry, mate, but I just can't believe you. You're just too frightened. Just too frightened of us knowing the truth. So, yeah, I'm gonna have to say I can't believe you. No! Right, let's go and see what these Macra look like. I bet they look like giant crabs. Hello everyone, Nick here, and welcome to my review, or re-review I should say, of the Macra Terror. And I haven't actually watched the story on the DVD yet, but I have watched it on the Blu-ray, both colour and black and white versions, but I will be watching it on the DVD as well, and I'm hoping to get the Steelbook Blu-ray as well. So, the Macra Terror. My opinion of this story has not changed since I last reviewed it on my retro channel back in February after I watched it for the second time via reconstructions of the story, thanks to Loose Cannon, courtesy of Daily Motion. So yeah, I had a slightly different opinion of it back when I first saw the reconstructions back in late May, early June last year. But rewatching it in February, I absolutely couldn't stand it. I mean, I didn't absolutely hate it, but I can't really stand it that much. And yet I was still excited for the new upcoming animation. I had been excited when I heard the rumours. I was excited when I heard the official announcement. I saw the trailer. It looked really great. And then I saw the reconstruction for the second time, and that's where my opinion just went down on the story. I knew I wasn't the biggest fan of the story originally, but my goodness, did I just really not like it on the rewatch. And that brought down my excitement for this reanimation, and yeah, but the animation was looking absolutely lovely, so at least I could say that. So, after another 2 viewings of the story, what are my new opinions on of it? Exactly the same. I still dislike this story. I will say that the animation is absolutely beautiful, and it's the best animation that they've done for a reanimated Doctor Who story as of this point, as of May 2019. But the story is just I've got so many problems. Could I manage to remember them all? Okay, I don't really like the story. I mean, it sounds like a good idea having these creatures as the overall control of a colony, making them obey, but no. I'm trying to think of the words. They're trying to make them control and do their works by making them happy. So yeah, but they're not forced to be happy, but they are supposed to be kept in check. If they go a bit mad or stuff, like the character of Medoc, then they get into trouble and they are put in this correctional hospital or sent down to the gas mines. And okay, it doesn't sound too bad, does it? But in all honesty, it sounds like the people in charge are actually part of the conspiracy. I mean, they're supposed to be not covering it up. I mean, they're supposed to be blinded to the information as much as everybody else, but it seems like they're part of a conspiracy themselves. In the end of part 2, the pilot lets them see the controller, and it turns out to be an old man as opposed to the middle-aged person we see on the screen. And when we see the Macra attack the old man, I'm going to come back to this point in a moment because it's one of my biggest problems of the story. But when he sees that guy, he then ushers the Doctor, Jamie and Polly to be taken away and sent to the camp, to the mines, because they're saying the Macra is in control. And he doesn't notice. He doesn't mention any of it. Okay, so it does look like he is involved in this. But later on, he then the Doctor then shows him the Macra in the control room, and he realizes he's being duped. So, did he just not see the big giant claws of the attack that man? Or in this animated version, claws and shadows of the Macra. It's a bit strange. And going back to this problem of that scene, I mean, throughout episodes 2, 3, and 4, the Macra, who are in control, and via control, they're trying to say there is no such thing as Macra, and they're getting really hysterical about it. So super hysterical. It's almost difficult to believe them in normal states. I mean, the people who are believed, the people of the colony who are conditioned, they probably agree. But from an audience point of view, they are sounding so hysterical that if you weren't under the control, under the hypnosis, then it's the complete opposite of believability. You would be like, yeah, the way you're saying it, we can't believe you. Ben even comments on control starting to sound like saying that doesn't sound like someone who's in control. In part 4, when he's starting to lose some of that control that's hypnotized, they've hypnotized him, and when he starts losing some of that, then that's where he makes that comment. And he realizes that they are getting a bit hysterical. So, yeah, I mean, if you aren't conditioned, then you're not going to be able to take control seriously when they're getting all hysterical. And going back to that end of episode 2, start of episode 3 bit, when they show the controller, they then tell the controller to speak, give them a minute. I mean, they tend to be quiet, and then when the Doctor and company demand him to speak, they then tell the controller to speak. He's asked, "Speak? I'm allowed to speak?" And the Macra tell him to tell them that, to say, everything is fine, don't worry. And the controller says, "Yes, I'll do whatever you want." And then the Macra just kill him. Yeah, I had this problem with the other version as well. Why on earth do the Macra Terror show themselves? I mean, unless that they wanted to get the Doctor and his friends into the mines, that's the only reason I can think of. Otherwise, why did they just kill the controller on screen for no reason? The only way I could probably think about it is that they wanted the Doctor and his friends in the mine. But other than that, the Macra just decided to be stupid. It's like the writer wanted to have a way for the Doctor, Jamie and Polly to be in the mines and find out that the Macra are in control, but nobody else believes them. They just wrote something. I mean, like I said, if it was the Macra's plan to get them into the mines, then maybe I could understand, but I don't know. It's not explained. I also find that Captain Ola is very, not just so single-minded that he believes every single thing, but he's like he wants to knock down anyone who says otherwise. He wants to be in control, even with the slightest rumour of otherwise. He's like, if I still work for them loyally, then they'll still they'll have me be in control. And he even gets gets to be in control at the very end, or well, just before the end, I should say. I don't know what happens to him afterwards. I wouldn't be surprised if he was fired. And to be honest, that's the least they can do to that cunt of a character. He's another one of those characters I would call those characters. And the pilot isn't so bad. He's actually quite nice, but he is a bit of a prick in some places. But towards the end of part 4, he more than makes up for it. And Ben gets controlled. And this is a good idea. I think this is one part of it that's actually executed okay. I mean, it's annoying for me personally, but I think story-wise it's executed well. And then parts 3 and 4 see him struggling against this conditioning and start to revert back to his usual mind. And Michael Cranes does a fantastic performance in part 2, despite the story he's given. I think most of the actors do a great job. Come to think of it. But the story is let down by just being a pretty bad story. That being said, it's now time to move on to the animation. If you want to see more opinions and gripes about the story, then please do check out the original review. I think I cover it more. I cover such things more and a little bit more extensively there. But now we're also going to have to look at the animated version of the story as well. So most of those gripes come from the still frame version, the reconstruction. I will say that the animated version is able to fix some problems. For example, in part 4, where the controller's face just pops up after Ola tells this guy who's working in charge of the mines that the pilot is a traitor. The controller then pops up and says the pilot has no longer has any authority. Ola is in control. In the reconstruction, it's just another appearance of the face. In the animated version, you hear the voice first, and then you see the shot of the face, and after the shot of Ola and the other guy from another angle. So it's fixed a little bit better here, and I think quite a bit of it is fixed better. From the original footage and clips and pictures, it is difficult to see how much of the story takes place inside the colony and which takes outside. Besides on in episode 1 where the Doctor and company first arrive. But besides that, it's difficult to tell what's inside the colony and what's if they're in the colony but in just the corridor or something, or in a restricted part. But it turns out it's at night. Some of it's at night, such as the famous Polly being grabbed by the claw scene, which they've had to use their imaginations a bit to adapt it to this bit here, into the scene in the episode. Although you can hear some of the original audio and it doesn't quite fit, but you know, it doesn't always have to be the case, but it can be noticeable sometimes. But that being said, with the animated version, they were able to show us some have some scenes take place outside the actual colony, and even show us scenes of the colony itself. The colony itself looks really nice. I mean, it looks like a couple of houses stacked on rectangular houses stacked on top of each other, but it looks alright. It looks decent. When I get the steelbook, I'll show you a picture. Which will not be in time for this review's going out. Cancel that. I also find the movement of this in the animated version really well done. I think it's really great. I did see an animation test, and I did see the animation short for Wheel in Space, and both of them, yeah, they were a bit rough around the edges. So by the time they did the finished version of this story, then it looks really good. So if they're going to do the same for Wheel in Space, by the way, then they got to do it as good as this one, because that 10-minute short that extract that episode was a little bit rough around the edges, and I would say the same for the animation test that they did, but that ultimately became this story. The Macra themselves, like the Daleks, look really great in animated form, much better than the props, although, like I said, this does lead to some scenes being a little bit different, and in some cases this can be better, in some cases this is not so good. But I will not bash on that. So, brilliant animation, but the story, I just can't get into this story. I have quite a few problems, and it just prevents me from getting into it. I think the character designs are really well done, though. That's good. So, yeah, I mean, the animated version is worth a watch. It's just whether you will like the story or not. I know some people will probably be able to take this, not get annoyed as much as I would, but maybe not find it as one of the greatest stories. But in the end, the Macra Terror, it's great animation, but not that great story. So I'm going to retain the score I had on the original review that you can still check out, by the way. So I'm going to give the Macra Terror a 5 out of 10. This is purely due to story. I was originally going to think if due to the amazing animation, it could be a 6. But you know what? I can't give it anything higher than a 5 because the story isn't so great. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if I would have lowered it, but the animation is still amazing for this story. I don't think it's going to be lower than 5 because there are some bits I do like. Like I said, when the controller is showing the Macra, then that's good. And Jamie going into the tunnel, looking good. The Doctor in the mind control room, he had some great stuff, especially when he was working out that calculation. And when he's skulking around, and quite a lot of the first half of part 1 is actually pretty good. It's pretty interesting. It's a shame that they didn't do the entire first episode of, oh, this colony's really nice, really great, but it's just that some people have some hallucinations, go a bit mad, go to this correctional hospital. Then at the end of part 1, then the Doctor sees that this guy actually was telling the truth. Part 2, he tries to tell everybody else, but he gets into trouble. And then that leads to part 3, where he realises he has to save the day, save the colony, and part 4 is where he does that. They sort of do that basic story, but I think but things happen. He has a bit more meddling in places, and it's not quite that structure. I think if there was more, the colony is great stuff until the end of part 1, start of part 2, where everything is just turned on its head in a kind of a twist in a way. Then I think that would have been a bit more of an improvement, and the Doctor could have done all of the meddling from part 1 in part 2, and kind of get closer and closer to getting into trouble until about the end of part 2-ish. And then part 3, that's maybe the cliffhanger of part 3 is that the Macra are in control, not just around, but in control, and that could have made an interesting story basis. I think it tried to do so much quickly, and that being said, tried to do so much quickly, but it also drags. The story kind of drags a little bit. I think towards the end of part 1, I was thinking, we're still on part 1? And there are longer stories that actually fly. In fact, Ark in Space is a 4-part story as well, and that one the first episode flew by. This one kind of dragged. So, yeah. So that's it from me. What did you think of the story? What did you think of the review? Go check out the other review for more opinions on Macra Terror. See more reasons why I dislike it. In a bit more of a... I think I rant a bit more in that original one. And yeah, what do you think of the animation? Personally, I love the animation. It's just a shame the story they put it with just wasn't as good. I mean, you've got great animation, but you can also have with great stories. You can have great animation with not so great stories. You can have not so great animation with great stories, and not so great animation with not so great stories. So Reign of Terror parts 4 and 5, I really dislike Reign of Terror. Dislike those 2 episodes. The animation of those 2 episodes, awful. I'm not really a big Fate of Sigma animated episodes fan, but I think they did improve for their following up projects on the 10th Planet Part 4 and the Moonbase Parts 1 and 3, but they're not as good as other animated companies' episodes. thankfully they did do better jobs on those 3 episodes, and those 3 episodes were also much better than Reign of Terror. Ice Warriors, I find, is an absolutely terrible story, but the animation is beautiful there, for the missing 2 episodes there, 2 and 3, and I think all the others are great animation and great story. So the Invasion Parts 1 and 4, the Power of the Daleks, all 6 episodes, and the animated bits of Shada. I will say that these are the cases of great animated episodes, not great story. So, yeah. Is there any other animated episodes? I think Macra, Terror and Ice Warriors would fall under that category. Reign of Terror would fall under the bad animation, bad episodes. Bad fairly bad, but also fairly good as well. I think, let's say mixed animation, good episodes for the other Theta Sigma episodes, and great animation, great episodes for the rest. Yeah, so that's my definition. Anyway, so that's it from me, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.